Hello and welcome to The Big Leap presented by CleverTap, where we shine a light on the pioneers, the marketers, the companies, the growth leaders, everyone achieving growth through retention. Our guests, of course, they share the steps, the strategies, the stories that took them from good to great. And today, my guest is that and more because he's a serial entrepreneur who has a great passion for growth. And in 2011, he founded his first startup, Lavu, which became one of the biggest dating apps in Europe, extremely well known, particularly after selling it in 2017, an exit of about $70 million. My guest started Fastic, a 5-star intermittent fasting app used by over 26 million users worldwide. So once again, a focus on growth, and we're going to hear him talk about both marketing and growth. Welcome, Tobias Boerner. Great to have you on The Big Leap.
Hi, Peggy. Thanks for having me.
Quite a build-up for you. No pressure here, but it is an exceptional career. How did it get started?
Back in the days, so like 2010 more or less, I'm sit together with my previous business partner. What we had online was a website, a web community, like a photo community where we sent people to the party, making photos and upload them to the website the next day. And to me was clear. Yeah, the phones will took over that. It make much more sense to have an app, right?
Yeah.
This is a little bit the beginning of yeah the first mobile first dating app Lavu, because we thought it would be super cool to have an app on the party to see who is single around you. So this is how the idea was born, basically.
Well, it's gone full circle because your passion for marketing and growth, they come together in that app. They also come together in Fastic. And I was doing some research. 92% of your users say they're happy customers. What are you doing to delight such a vast number of your customers? I mean, not usually in the 90s for some apps.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's also very good achievement so far. Like compared to our first project, was a little bit different. Like if you look then to the scoring, it was not that nice what we achieved now, but what we do differently, listening very carefully and have very deep interviews with customers to understand more their needs and not to only follow our gut feeling all the time. What we did in the with the first startup. I mean, we combine now experience. Of course, we have now like 10 years mobile experience and combine it with customer needs. And I think this is a very good combination, and this leads to this amazing number.
It's also interesting that you eat your own dog food in a way, Tobias, because something you won't read in LinkedIn, but you shared it with me. You yourself do intermittent fasting and you've done it since April 2019. How's that coming along and how's that feeding into, no pun intended, your own product?
I was a little bit influenced by one of my co-founders, so he's very into the fasting game, and he basically convinced me to that. And to have really passion for something, you have to you have to do this. So for Lavu was not possible because I was already in love. I had already a relationship before we started this business. But for fasting, I mean, to working on your own health, it's so important to me as well. So I mean, I'm vegetarian since a couple of years. I go out for a run mainly every morning, and that was quite obvious to also start intermittent fasting because there's so much health benefits. I use this for like maintain my health, so and it's doing great.
Well, you're looking great. Of course, you live in Spain, so that explains the tan and the look and the fitness. But a big part of it is also your routine. And the interesting thing about an app like yours is it is a routine. It becomes part of my personal life. And you have done this in your marketing as well because personalization is a big part of your success. Your subscription app, you have to keep me engaged and coming back. What are you doing at a high level? We'll dig a little deeper, but at a high level, what are you doing to treat every user as an individual and support them in their personal weight and health goals. Can you give some examples?
In the beginning, it starts with the onboarding, right? This is like an essential part of the journey of every single customer, and this is the place where we asking a lot of health related, very personal questions about like sex, weight, height, etc., pp, and then like nutrition, behavior, like if you're doing sports or not. What about your work? If you have a lot of moves and so on, and we use this personal information afterwards for make your journey more personal. And yeah, this is basically one of the important pillars at Fastic to have a very unusual long onboarding because not just of marketing reasons, it's really the key to make the first days very customized to each of our customers.
How intricate is your onboarding journey? I'm just curious because, of course, there are many in our audience who are having to get more personal in their onboarding, and a little bit of a deeper dive would benefit them as well.
We have a lot of advice. We have a lot of questions. We have a lot of explanations in the onboarding to also building trust. Because if you're asking so much personal data, we also need to explain why we need those input from you. You know, personal privacy is a big thing. Imagine you have to answer a lot of very personal things about you. And this is why we need to also refer to studies, also refer to sources, and so on, to also give an explanation why we need that, and also why we need, like, for example, permission. We have in the onboarding a lot of hints to explain that even further.
Well, that's actually valuable advice right there, because it says that you need to ask questions. It builds trust. It's a dialogue with a meaning. Now, I've never heard a marketer ever say that personalization is something they didn't want to do or embrace, particularly now. We're in a privacy first landscape, and everyone is, yes, talking about we have to treat people like individuals and we can't be creepy about it. Yet so many marketers are still missing the mark here. Why do you think that is?
I don't know. To me, was it's especially in the health and fitness environment, it need to be personal because everyone needs to find his own way, right? Everyone is so different when it comes to health. Uh, Someone want to maintain their weight, someone like to lose weight, someone do it just for health purposes. There's so many different directions. I think to understand this as in the marketing funnel, it's super important when it comes to the product marketing. I'm not talking about like user acquisition, right? I mean, in the product, it's a different game, and in the product, from my point of view, I think every customer is should be their own use case, and that means personalization is key.
I like that motto, actually. Every customer should be their own use case. Let's take that a bit further and talk about the user journey, the customer journey. You're talking about the interplay between product and marketing, and of course, onboarding is just one of them. Maybe you can give me some idea of what your approach is to personalization to get people, past registration, moving them toward that paywall and that decision, because you are a subscription app and you are successful at it.
Yeah, at Fastic, so we break it, or I break it down more or less in like in different categories. It begins with the activation phase. We move in parallel with retention and monetization. So like in health and fitness, it's quite common that you monetize customers in the very early beginning in the onboarding or on the first days, because if you have the chance to creating them a very personal plan, you have to also sell them a subscription, and to make them stick afterwards, it's then more about the product quality. So then it's on us to deliver on the constantly basis value for money somehow, which is not connected to any renewal rates or also, or to like to a subscription end date or so on. What we really put on the agenda is to have on a weekly basis something new for the subscribers. that they really feel, okay, there's value in. We are not there yet, so but I have it very clear on in my mind what we have to do, and we work really hard in our very small team now to achieve that goal.
Interesting you talk about that once a week for the individual, and you said the individual, defines the use case. I've been interviewing a number of marketers with subscription apps, saying things like, particularly for health and fitness, just sort of like a daily check-in in some ways. You would think that a daily check-in would annoy people, but I have a marketer and she sends her users a daily sort of like, you're doing fine type of message. And they love it. They love it. They consider that part of the service. It's a push notification. It's not it's not rocket science, but it is something that people love as an aspect of the product. Is there something along those lines that you're maybe thinking of or you could imagine for Fastic?
It's in place already, so we have similar techniques. So I mean, people like to track things, right? I mean, Fastic is also known as a tracker, right? It's a tracker for a lot of things. The main thing is time tracker, the time where you eat or where you not eat. This is basically the main feature. We have multiple things. People like, for example, the water reminders a lot. So because to stay hydrated is very, very important, and for that is a push notification with a little hint and a little nudge. It's so, so important. And this is also why people love Fastic.
I want to have you, as a practitioner and as an expert, weigh in a little bit on some data that I have, because CleverTap has also looked at the level of personalization, how that relates to conversion rates. So it's a new construct that they're looking at. They call it the personalization ladder. And I'll give it to you just in a nutshell. So level one, first rung, is demographics. We all know that, who the audience is. Level two of personalization is behavioral data, more psychographics. It gets interesting at level three. That's when you start to align with user context, user behavior in the app as a trigger for notifications, messages. I think that's where you are, Tobias. Level four is the stage when you draw on all of this, including past behavior, combine it with everything you know about the user to treat the user as an individual. Now, this is hyper-personalization. In the case of conversions, messaging triggered by what you know about your users and what they do in-app is 2x more effective than basic segmentation. But when you do it all, and no one is really doing it all yet, the outcome is 5x higher than that. So there is a ladder, there is a level. I'd love to have you just weigh in on this framework, maybe how it compares to your own approach or even the increases that you're seeing through personalization. Is this a good construct for you?
We call it differently, but for the different levels you described as a level, I think if you can establish somehow a gamification approach on your product, which we do on Fastic, then it's perfectly also to understand it somehow in levels, or as you call it as levels, um, and then it's very 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 interesting to give for every single use case or like stage, for example, activation phase, retention phase, monetization phase, different use case. I can give you an example. What is a good one is at Fastic. At Fastic, you get stars, right? Our points if you do something, if you do an academy, if you start your fasting, end your fasting, and so on. You're collecting points somehow. And if you reach a certain amount, let's say 10, there will be a use case triggered. And the use case, we call this then also a happy moment somehow, because the customer did something, reached something, get a surprise, or we ask him to give us a review in the App Store, for example, or you get a special deal for subscription, and so on and so on and so on. I think this is a very good model to also think about then in levels. What could that be in that kind of levels? And to your point of hyper personalization, we all know what's now possible with AI, and I see it already on the horizon that we are not that far anymore from very very hyper personalization model, and then we came back to the point what I mentioned previously, every customer should be their own use case. This hopefully is soon possible if we combine it with like AI somehow.
So you are a builder, you're a doer, you have created a user journey, an individualized user journey. What does a good user journey look like?
Let's say it's enough communication that the communication is not annoying. So and you know it's a little bit tricky to figure that out. What is enough communication? So this is something where we have not the final answer yet. And we over the years we play around with a lot of different kind of communication and we orchestrate them very well. Always, if we try to bring that down to like a lower level of user communication, it hurts the retention somehow. If you have like hundreds of thousands of customers, you have so many data and you're sending out so much different in-app pushes, emails, and so on. That is, it's tricky to orchestrate that. We will come in a new area where like AI will help us to do that better.
I'd like to explore that with you because everyone now is talking about the impact of AI. Do you see that more as automation and making your job easier, or do you even see that as a little bit of inspiration, coming up with some great ideas and saying, hey, why don't you try this channel mix, or why don't you try this message? What is it for you? Where do you see AI having the most benefit on what you do?
For us, especially if we're talking about customer communication, it's sense making for sure. We have a lot of health data. Sense making is one of the most important things. I mean, Apple also heading very strong in this direction right now. For Apple is health the most important thing. I think for the whole for our whole customers the same. I mean, ad copy is I mean, this is I think I would call it as a basic use case, right? We don't need to talk about that anymore. So like we definitely need to go beyond that. We will definitely see at least two AI features releasing very soon, and not talking about just to get some copy out there. So like it's a very clear use case in Fastic for the health journey of our customers.
You're also, of course, at the end of the day, a subscription app, and getting people from free to fee is a journey in itself. I've done some reading about how to do this, and one thing that comes through is always try to deliver the communications when they count. It's the value at the moment. Nudges, reminders, the idea is show them to me when you have my attention. How do you match messaging and context to do that?
Similar. So we had also we have similar moments where we also showing a paywall. We tested a lot. So sometimes it could be better to let them play with the feature and show the paywall in the moment when the outcome is. Sometimes it's better to show the paywall directly. So this is always like a way to figure out what brings the most people in. Yeah, for Fastic, we have like the most sales in the onboarding already, and then it's what you described already. Afterwards, we try to bring in more freemium at Fastic, and that means you can play around with the features and you can use them, and then you have to pay if you want to scale this up, if you want to see more, if you want to use more plans, and probably in the near future we will also combine it more with ad monetization and with rewarded ads and so on to even bring even more people into in our new amazing features, which is not only not only available for premium customers, but I'm a big fan of bring more people into the game. That means to give options to pay with your time or to if you consuming advertising. This is also a way what we learned with Labu back in the days.
Interesting. So you're drawing from those roots, and we will see that in your product. And you've talked about product, but you've also talked very much, you're a strong proponent of retention. You've baked it into your growth loop. And you've also said, and I quote, retention leads to more profits, more user growth, and the growth loop continues to drive itself. Unpack that for us, because that sums it up so well.
If you can acquire more new customers, and of course, with a good marketing team, this is one of the most important things when it comes to growth. They bring in new customers. New customers bring in, hopefully, if you have a good product, their friends and family as well. And if they stay enough time on your product, and then you earn enough with them, we have a good return. We have a good return on ad spend. The customer lifetime value should be higher than your blended acquisition costs. Then it's ready for scaling up this game. And this is something what we have on our agenda, is to earning the money back within the 12 months. And everything else, we invest in user growth to bring in more people to the product, which is then also very good for the organics, because they will love the product. They will invite, hopefully, their buddies or family and so on. And this then leads to another growth phase.
Yes, it sounds like everyone should know that, but that's also part of the reason for this show, is because people are getting their head around growth through retention, that retention is a growth motor, a growth engine. What would you say to people when you're trying to explain to them the value of growth through retention, particularly at a time where growth through acquisition has never been harder or tougher or more challenging?
Yeah, retention, of course, it's one of the biggest growth engines anyway, but it's also something what is very difficult to increase like 5 times or 10 times, right? It's not that easy. Some people believe, we release this feature and this will lead then to more retention. It's very, very difficult. And sometimes you have to accept that you not can outperform 10x the market. I think it's a good approach to look to the left and to the right, look to benchmark data, what is possible to get and where you are, and focusing on your strengths. That you say, let's say, okay, well, we are already not that bad with retention. Let's focusing more on monetization, for example, or let's focusing more on user acquisition, or let's be the best one in AI in feature integration.
Great segue, because I was going to ask you exactly that. The smallest change you made, or the bit of fine tuning that you have seen, had the biggest impact on the retention metric?
There are multiple factors what you have to do, which is sending push, have in-apps, sending emails, make them stick somehow, give them little nudges, give them not everything at once. Like there's a playbook what we are using, but there is no only one factor. If you're doing this, it will lead to that. So like this is something sometimes people expect that. And sometimes I also believe, okay, if we release this will definitely have an impact. No, it's not that easy. So sometimes the opposite happens. It's a game. You have to play that game, and then you have to look at the numbers, and then take it from there and learn with those numbers.
Well, you mentioned a game, and gamification is also big in what you're doing. But at the end of the day, you're also a CMO, which means you're thinking about brand. You're thinking about being effective, but you're also thinking about exciting our emotions, getting us to not just use the app, but love the app. So what do you think is the impact of a strong brand on your growth?
It makes it easier in the user acquisition if the brand is strong, because there's somehow trust already on the horizon, which is then easier to onboard new people. If they know you somehow, you're already, okay, this Fastic is a brand for health or weight loss, then if you have already trust, which is good, especially if it comes to a paywall. It's good for like for like the asking for a subscription, which is good for everything in the product. Then there is definitely more trust in the advice, instead if like it's a random new product, people don't know, is this can I trust this advice? Should I follow the schedule? I think if you be in the market and you're well known in this area, then you're building more brand, and this helps on every single touch point, to especially for growth.
Speaking of growth, that's what we're going to talk about. A couple of last wrap up rapid fire questions about exactly that, and just quick answers, quick advice for our audience. What is the biggest misconception about brand?
From my point of view, it's if you believe you have to have branding campaigns to get a brand.
That is interesting. What do you mean?
Over the years, I met some brand managers. They strongly believe if you want to be a brand, you need like this very complex message out there, and spending a lot of money on like out of home or TV to make sure that this will be a brand. This is somehow a waste of money.
Final question. What is your golden rule of growth through retention?
There's no golden rule. So there is no one thing. If you follow that, you will definitely see growth. So our approach is always to be very open-minded, to try out a lot of things. This was, by the way, how Fastic was also how Fastic came out. We try out a lot of things in the beginning, and to just follow the behavior of the customer and to understand that very well, and then go beyond that. So like move fast, put the things out, and then look on data and make decisions based on them. And of course, if you combine it with your with a little bit of your experience history, then you probably might be a little bit faster.
Excellent. Excellent advice there. And thanks, Tobias. Thank you so much for being my guest and for sharing today on The Big Leap.
Thanks for having me.
And this has been The Big Leap. For our audience, we also publish this video as a podcast, which is easy for you to consume on the go, on the train, on the plane, wherever you may be. And if you're listening to the audio version, you can also see the video. Just search for The Big Leap on YouTube. This show is all about shining a light on amazing marketers who took the big leap to achieve growth through retention. So if you have a story to tell, hook up with me on LinkedIn and we may get you set up with a show of your own. Until then, this is Peggy Anne Salz for CleverTap and The Big Leap.